So this Ramadan, especially since we've had a New York City mayor, the first Muslim New York City mayor, who is wearing his religion on his sleeve, who is using government platforms and institutions like Rikers that he controls in order to showcase his religion. New Yorkers have had a distinct sense that the Muslim religion is dominating the city of New York. So let's take a look at what's going on in New York, just based on the numbers, not your opinion of Islam or your opinion of any other religion. Just for the record, I'm a Catholic. I was baptized a Catholic, and our religion just happens to be the largest religion in New York. First of all, let's consider the reality of what we're seeing here. Why does it seem like there are so many Muslims praying in public spaces as opposed to other religions? Well, let's look at the hard numbers. I asked Grok how many times the Catholic religion and the Jewish religion, either or, have taken over park space, public park space in New York City in order to practice their religions since September 11th, 2001. We all know the significance of that date. The answer is 0. The Catholic religion hasn't used a public park one time for a religious service. The Jewish religion has not used the park one time for a religious service since 9/11, whereas the Muslim religion has taken over public spaces like parks dozens of times. So I asked Grok, at what point did the Muslim religion start taking over public spaces with the type of frequency that we see today? And the answer kind of surprised me. It was somewhere around 2013, 2015 that they started migrating their practices into public spaces, which is protected under the United States Constitution. There is very little anyone can do about not accommodating religion in open public spaces. That's just the way it is. Now, the question is, should they? For example, there's nothing under our Constitution that says I don't have the right to speak my own mind about things that are offensive. For example, I can say, I think Zohran Mamdani's wife is one of the ugliest women I've ever seen. I can say, I think his mother is also one of the ugliest women I've ever seen. Should I say that? No, I shouldn't. It's not appropriate. It's not polite to my fellow citizens to be judging people based on their appearance, although Zohran Mamdani's bots and his supporters do that on the regular, especially about bald people, which they shouldn't do based on the guy they support. He's kind of losing his hair, by the way. Now, Muslims will claim that they don't have enough space in mosques in order to accommodate their religion. And to a great degree, that is accurate because the Muslim religion has much more frequent religious ceremonial prayers. I'm not sure, in my personal opinion, that is everyone else's problem, but that is the reality of the situation. Muslims pray up to 5 times a day in groups. Jews practice, if they're devout, practice up to 3 times a day. And Catholics, us Catholics, not so much. Once a week on holidays. Now, the leadership of the Islamic religion in New York City claims that the reason they're taking over public spaces is because their numbers are growing so greatly and they don't have the space in mosques in which to practice their religion. Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. But what you can see when you look at the actual numbers, the religion with the least amount of space for their adherents is the Catholic Church. They have 5.6 adherents, Catholics, per open slot in a parish, in a church. Those slots are based on building codes and occupancy regulations, as is every other place of worship. In the Muslim religion, they have more space, 3.8 Muslims per 1 slot open in a mosque. And Jews, they have 2.6 adherents or Jews per open space, 1 open space in a synagogue. The bottom line here is every single religion in New York can make the claim that they do not have enough space in their religious institutional buildings in order to practice their religion. Jews can do this, Catholics can do this, Muslims can do this, other religions can do this. If every religion did it with the frequency that the Muslim religion does it, I think you'd end up with a lot of overlap and problems and fights over open space. The Muslim religion is pushing it to the point of confrontation. And I believe this is intentional. I believe Zohran Mamdani is doing this intentionally. I believe his followers are doing this intentionally. I believe religious leaders are doing this intentionally to create this public confrontation over our constitutional rights in this country and their practices as a religion. It's a real problem. So the question would be, why? My personal opinion, under my First Amendment rights to free speech, which I can say whatever I want, unlike certain city council members, apparently, they're doing this to exert dominance over the city. They're doing this to show themselves publicly as a dominant religion in New York City. Again, is this appropriate? Is it appropriate to judge Zohran Mamdani's wife's appearance? No. Is it appropriate for them to use this as an excuse and our Constitution as an excuse to dominate our public spaces when no other religion does that? In my opinion, no. From my experience living here my entire life, in this region my entire life virtually, I have never seen as much presence of the Muslim religion on the streets in public spaces as I have in the last year or 2 years. Now, that leaves us with very few options. That leaves the United States with very few options. You cannot discriminate against one religion over another, even if that one religion takes up most of your public space practicing its religion. So it comes down to what I think is going to be the defining issue in presidential elections for the next few decades, beyond my lifetime. It's going to be, who do we let into this country? And you can't discriminate based on religion. You can't say, I'm not letting someone into this country because they're Muslim. However, there is this exception. The president of the United States, whomever they are, can ban people from coming into the United States from any particular country he chooses with very, very little reasoning for doing so. That's what I think is going to end up happening in the years ahead. The more Muslims try to insert themselves into dominance in our culture by taking advantage of our Constitution, you're going to end up with presidents who have the power to ban people from certain countries from coming into this country doing just that. And personally, I think they'd be right.